Hey guys, it's Dieselworks123 here. Now today in front of me I have what is the evolution of the Thomas & Friends diecast toys. Now over the years the Thomas brand has been through many changes, but the diecast range is something that I feel has had the biggest changes in the whole franchise. Now this is going to be a rather long video, so I suggest you get something to eat, something to drink, and let's take a look at the diecast evolution of the Thomas & Friends toys. And the diecast era first started in 1984 with the introduction of the Ertl Thomas brand. There were 3 variations of the Ertl in this size. There was also a big version of Thomas and Percy that was released, but let's have a closer look at these guys here. Now here's where it's all started with the Ertl range, and that was with the paper-faced Ertl. These were versions of the characters where the faces were made of paper. They were a sticker. These types of models are very hard to find nowadays, especially in good condition. This one I picked up at a flea market for about $4, and I am very happy I got it. Let's have a look at that face. So there is the face of the paper-faced Ertl Thomas. It is very reminiscent of the Railway series. And if we just get a closer look at underneath Thomas here, in the flare we can see there, 1985, Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, Brit Allcroft Thomas Limited. And over there it says, the Ertl Company, Dyersville Town, is it town? Is that what it says? Dyersville, Ohio, USA. I hope I've got that right. Made in China. So that was the paper-faced Ertl. But it wasn't going to be long before we had a different Ertl Thomas that in a way was slightly better than this. It was then that Ertl decided they needed to upgrade this toy, and it went from being this to this. Now at first glance it looks exactly the same. It's the same design, same paint job, except there's one difference. It now had a moulded plastic face. These faces carried on till the end of Ertl. It was a step up from the paper face because we now had an actual 3-dimensional face that children could actually touch. They could feel the cheeks and the nose, and it was just a really nice thing to add on to these toys. If we take a look underneath, if I can get it to focus, we can see there 1985, so the same markings as the paper-faced Thomas. However, this later Thomas is held in by screws, whereas the paper-faced one was held in by rivets. So why they decided to change it from rivets to screws, I don't know, because it just means that this could actually pull apart a lot more easier. And just get another look at that face there. There is a close-up of it. You take a direct comparison to what we had before. Which of these do you prefer? I know which one I prefer. I would love to hear what you guys think. So this was the longest lasting variation of Thomas in the Ertl form. It lasted right till it came out, till right to the end. And it was then upgraded again with a different variation, being this one here. Now, if I pull up that regular Ertl Thomas and do side by side, you start to see a lot of differences. The paint is actually a slightly different shade. It's actually also a different texture. There's a lot of different details there. And then we have a look at the face. Now this variation of Thomas was actually a pullback version. As you can see, underneath it had traction tyres, and you could roll the model back, and of course it would fire off. Now let's just have a look at all three of these regular Ertls and just take a different comparison to those faces. They all had different faces. I feel the one on the pullback was the most accurate to what we saw in the TV series. So there are the three different variations of Ertl you could get in the regular size. Now, unfortunately, Ertl didn't last that long, and the diecast era of Thomas changed dramatically. It wasn't long before Ertl changed over and discontinued the line, and the next version of the diecast Thomas that we got was these here. So let's go and have a look at these ones. And in 2002 we were introduced to the Take-Along Thomas produced by Learning Curve. Now this was a dramatic change in the look of Thomas compared to what Ertl had dished out. Many people complained about these because it was very squashed up and out of proportion compared to what we received with Ertl, and many people didn't like these magnets. Although this did have advantages over the Ertl. For one thing, it had stronger wheels, and also, despite many people not liking this, it also had a better coupling system than Ertl, because the Ertl couplings were very weak. These made a nice solid connection between the rolling stock that it was made for. It was a really good toy once you saw how it played. Now there were a lot of variations of Take-Along. Let's just have a look at some of these. This was the original version that came out in 2002. How do you know it's an original? Well, because the boiler section here is made of metal. You can see up there where some of the paint has chipped away. And it soon got replaced by this one, which is literally identical, apart from the fact that this front boiler section here, the smoke box, is now made of plastic. And you see the difference in the two different models. You can see that this one here has a lot more shine to it than this one. Also the fact that you can see the casting line along this model. This one was dated in 2002, so just like its previous version, and underneath had also slightly changed, as the original version up top here had two rivets, whereas this one had a rivet and a triangle head screw to hold that plastic piece in. And we did get some really nice versions of Take-Along. There were ones like this, the Surprise Thomas, which came in the Thomas and the Special Lesser DVD pack. Who remembers those, where you got a DVD with a character having an accident and you got a little playset to recreate that scene? Who remembers those? That were the good old days. And we also had ones like this. Very nice looking models. They produced some very nice ones over the years. But there were two that really caught my eye when I was little. Possibly the two best models from this era was the metallic blue Thomas. This was an outstanding model. It had the metal front, it had a really nice metallic blue, you can see it shining there. Underneath it was also marked 2002. The thing with these toys though is they deteriorated very quickly. You have a look under this wheel here, you start to see some of the paint chipping away. It was really bad, and on this next model you'll be able to see it a lot better. This was another model that I thought was an outstanding one to have. It was the Silver Thomas, and you can just see all over where the paint has chipped off. This Thomas has had a lot of love, but it was such a beautiful model. They didn't really make these models very much, though they did do a very special series of metallic trains. And something that we were provided with the Take-Along era that we didn't receive in the Ertl era was what's called a collector's catalogue. Now, these would show you all the models that you could collect in the range. and they were very nice. They came with every engine. So there were the metallic engines you could get. You could get Thomas, Gordon, James and Percy, and then all along here there were different engines showing which ones you could collect, and on the other side was the playsets and accessories. Now this is when Take Along was going through its different stage of different track. That was the original track there, and they soon upgraded to what was a more realistic track. And you had things like this. I actually have that cranky, and there was the carry case as well. Who didn't have this carry case? But it's items like this that we don't see in the current Thomas and Friends toys. And something else that came from this era of Take Along was what's known as a collector card. This is Jack. You got a really nice picture of the character that you'd purchased, and on the back you had a synopsis, and you could get an idea of just what kind of character Jack is. Just another example here is Dennis. Nice promotional picture there of Dennis, and on the back as well it was very informative of the fact that Dennis was a very lazy engine. Just looking at the dates down here, the Dennis card says 2006, and the Jack card, what does that say? That one says 2008. So this was obviously a newer style of card for the Take and Play. This must have been one of the last of that era because it does look very snazzy. Now we move on to 2009, and Mattel decided to have their shot at producing Thomas toys and introduced the Take and Play line. Now at first glance you might just think that this is exactly the same as the Take and Play era, whereas if you actually bring up a Take and Play with up next to a Take Along, you start to see that there are a lot of different changes. The paintwork is different, the style of the number 1 is different, some details weren't there. We had a full coloured roof on the Take and Play rather than a partially coloured one on the Take Along. And also, something that I don't think many people have noticed is look at the domes. The Take Along has the dome on the third boiler band from the cab. That is actually incorrect, whereas Mattel actually came and fixed that and put it on the fourth band from the cab, like it is meant to be. And also the biggest difference I feel is the face. I mean, you just look at those two faces and you tell me which one do you prefer. Out of those two, I definitely preferred the Take and Play. Now Take and Play itself lasted quite a while, but it also went through a lot of its own changes. The toys started out a little bit expensive, but they were built with the quality that you knew they were going to last. And well, what happened from there was the toys got even cheaper to make, and we actually lost quite a bit of metal from these. But along with Take and Play, we also got some really nice variations of Thomas, like we have this one here. This is Thomas Hard at Work. We had a custom face, we had a dirty Thomas. It was very nice. This is one of my favourites in my Thomas Take and Play collection. And like I've said in every video I've shown this, I got this off a good friend called Joseph Marshall. If he's watching, hey bro. And then we got ones like this. This is the Thomas from the Pop Goes Thomas 2-pack. Now, just like Take Along, Take and Play also had its own collector catalogue. Now unfold it. One side we see all the engines that you could get. This is a 2013 collector's catalogue. That was what's featured on one side, and then the other side is King of the Railway themed, because 2013 was the year of King of the Railway. And also, it was a promotion for the special edition Silver Thomas, and I actually do have that Silver Thomas. But yes, that was the first generation of Take and Play, which I believe was pretty much the best variation of Take and Play. It was the original Take and Play, and this was a really good toy. But in 2012, Take and Play changed. The next Take and Play Thomas we're going to be looking at is the Pull and Zoom Thomas. This was a little spin-off for the Take and Play range. It was basically a 2-unit system, and there was a little motor inside your engine here, and you pulled the carriage back and the wheels would just go completely berserk. This was a rather curious Thomas because it didn't sell very well here. It might have sold better in other countries, but here in New Zealand it just sat on the shelves. No one was buying them. And to be honest, I'm glad they discontinued this series because really it didn't really appeal to me as a consumer of these toys, but maybe to other people they may have enjoyed these. Now we get to 2012, and Take and Play went through a little bit of a change. At first, looking at this model, you'd think it was just like the previous Take and Play. But if you scrutinise both models very carefully, you'd start to see that there are quite a lot of differences. For a start, our wheel system was replaced from these nice, sturdy, thick axles to what I'm calling the pinwheel axles, and it's what you'd find on something like a Hot Wheels car, something else that Mattel also produces. Along with the face was a CGI render. Also the dome was reduced to plastic instead of metal, and it was a completely different way to how the whole toy was put together. This was more of a snap together type toy, whereas this was really a build toy. This just snapped together. If we take a look underneath in the flare, we can see 2012 Mattel, made in Thailand. And it was quite strange, this change, when everyone first heard about it, but it did prove to be quite popular. And, well, was this really necessary? I'm not sure, but it stuck around for a little bit. And there were also quite a nice variation of these as well. But there's this one here. This is the Talking Thomas from this generation.
I must not delay.
It had Ben Small's voice, and it was, if you pressed and hold the button, you'd hear chuffing sounds.
I have more jobs to do.
And then you press the button again to stop them. There was also the ones from the sets. This was from the Spills and Thrills playset. It came with a little headpiece for Thomas that was attached via a magnet in the front that connected up to his front magnet. And this was a really nice one, even though it was just a standard Thomas with a clip piece on it. I did really like this one, and unfortunately Mattel decided to change this Thomas yet again, and this time I reckon they changed Take and Play for the worst. Well, 2013 presented us with yet another variation of Take and Play Thomas. What was different here, the cab was pretty much shrunk down to almost nothing. Little whistles up there were diminished to completely nothing, so was the dome. But possibly the most notable change about this toy was the magnet system. These were like imitation wooden railway magnets. If I pull up a wooden railway Thomas, you'll see what I'm talking about. These magnets were very similar. However, they could only couple one way. If you tried to couple them frontwards, the magnet repelled. Whereas if you coupled them backwards, they stuck together. Now, whoever thought that that was a good idea really should not be working for Mattel, because this was just unbelievably and utterly stupid. And just to prove that I'm actually telling the truth with the whole situation here about the magnet repelling, if I put them down here, try and couple up to my Take and Play Thomas, the magnet just repels. Why? Why? This is just so stupid and so uncalled for. I really struggle to see why Mattel thought this was in any way a good idea. And this stuck around for quite a while as well. The upside with these was that they did present us with some very, very nice looking Thomases. There was this one, for example, the stunning gold Thomas that was released for the 70-year anniversary. This is an absolutely stunning model. Very hard to obtain these days, and as far as I've seen, go for quite a bit of money. And there was also ones like these. You had the Racing Thomas with all the sponsors and that fancy little design. And then possibly the last version of this that I saw here in New Zealand was this Jungle Adventure Thomas. Sadly, we did not have the Streamline Thomas, which was one that I was very much looking forward to owning. Sadly, it never showed up here in New Zealand. So, unfortunately, this was what was really the last variation of Thomas to come around. But there was one more subcategory to these trains that I own from this era of Mattel, and it was quite a hit and miss, and it was this one here. I don't think I've shown this on video before, and if I have, I apologise for getting it wrong, but it was the Take and Play Glow Races. As far as I'm aware, they only did 4 Glow Races. They did Thomas, Percy, Rosie and Charlie, and I'm pretty sure they did the same amount of engines for the Adventures. I have seen the Adventures versions of these, and I might pick them up. I'm not sure though, but yeah, they're definitely interesting models. There was a couple of different ways to activate the lights here. You could press the button on the roof, and you got that lovely transparent plastic that allows you to see inside. You can even see the circuit board in there. There was also a light on the front. Very bright indeed. It was an LED in the front of this fake magnet. I can see you all. Yes, but when you also rolled the train along, there was a third light that appeared in the smoke box to appear as if there was fire in there. Well, I'm assuming that's what it was. But yeah, this also had those dumb magnets on them, and essentially this was like a farewell to Take and Play, because right around the corner was something very different indeed, but to be honest, I think was Mattel's best decision in years. And along comes this Thomas here. This is from 2017, and it is from the brand new Thomas & Friends Adventures line. Now, this is pretty much exactly the same as the previous Take and Play that we got, except for the fact that we have completely gotten rid of the magnet for this very nice clip coupling. Just to get a close-up of that coupling system now, it could spin around so you could couple your trains either way, and it's just a vast improvement on the look of the Thomas toy there. It actually looks like a train coupling, and it's just so much nicer to look at than that. Now, the problem with these is that these cannot be connected to these. These models are completely incompatible with each other. So really, you're being made to collect the collection all over again and say goodbye to your Take and Plays. That is, unless you happen to find a pamphlet and give Mattel a call, and they will send you out an adapter pack. I got sent 2 of these Thomas Adventures adapters packs, and what comes in them is some Take and Play to Adventures track adapters, and also some magnet to clip converters. As we can see here on the packaging, it might be a bit hard to see, but it's the best I can do. You can see there that you can be placed over the magnets on the previous take and play to convert them to clips in order to connect with your Thomas and Friends adventures. Now I actually have some of them here, unbagged. I've kept them in this little container, and well, let's just have a look at them, shall we? So you come in with your little Thomas Adventures and you want to connect it up to your old take and plays, but of course you can't because it's a completely different system in the couplings. However, if you have these, what you can do is you can convert these very ugly magnet coupling take and plays with the stupid magnets, and you can convert them to hooks. Now, I will say something here. This looks absolutely horrific. This looks disgusting. But Mattel must have known that they were going to change these over to the Adventures, because if we have a closer look at the magnet, you'll be able to see, once it focuses, you can see that they've got a little bit of a ridge here. Now, Mattel must have been aware that they were going to be changing these over, because these wouldn't be able to connect unless these areas here could lock into those little ridges on the magnets. But you got to remember, these were already a thing when Take and Play was out. It was just under a different name, and from what I can remember, I think was only sold in Asia, correct me if I'm wrong there, and it was called Thomas and Friends Collectible Railway. So maybe these were made in the same generation because they were planning to overtake Take and Play with the Collectible Railway and rename it Thomas and Friends Adventures. However, it does allow you to do this and connect your old Take and Play to the new Adventures. And as you can see here, it still has that very strong connection. Very strong connection indeed. Oh, I've pulled off the adapter there. But yes, in each pack you get 10 of these, which is really nice. So all up I've got 20, but I'm keeping these ones sealed in the bag. So that's a closer look at the adapter in the best way I can in my in-hand appraisal here. And something else I want to point out is the adapters. When Take Along had the adapters, they had different tracks for Take Along. They had this track and they had this track. So this was a adapter to connect the two versions of Take Along together. But it could also connect to the Take and Play range. And in that Adventures pack, you get these. These are Take and Play to Adventures adapters. And the big difference here is you can see Thomas and Friends Adventures has a different way of connecting their tracks together. So it's quite nice to have these. You get 2 of each adapter. You get 2 of each piece, being 2 female pieces and 2 male pieces. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, there is something else that I want to just quickly show you guys. Over in the corner of my review table, I have got a selection of the previous Take and Plays. I want to take some of these and see what they look like with the new adapters on their magnets. And I've got quite a selection there, so I think I will just get straight in. Okay, so first up here is Timothy with the adapters on his magnets. I will admit, these adapters do make the trains look quite ugly. It just makes them look far too long. But hey, if you want to save your Take and Plays, they're quite useful. Another engine we've got down here is Stanley. Now I think Stanley actually looks alright with these adapters on the magnets. Quite a cheery face there. And I'll just show you Thomas again because we all love to see Thomas. He is our #1 engine after all. And here we've got Percy. Not bad, not bad. I have actually seen the Adventures Percy in the shops. Haven't picked it up yet, but I probably will. Also saw Trevor as well. Quite an interesting model, that one. And the last one of these smaller engines that I'm going to show is Samson. Now, Samson, yeah, he doesn't look too bad. Doesn't look too bad with these connectors on there. But that was just some of the smaller engines. I want to show you guys some of the bigger engines as well, because they're actually quite interesting. Okay, just before we move on, I want to point something out. Here's the Take and Play Ashima. Now, if I go and try and put an adapter on her, yeah, it fits okay. But what happens when I try and connect a Thomas Adventures to her? Yeah, sure, strong connection, but does it have that same bond? Look at that. It comes straight off. You want to know why that is? Because Ashima has this fairing along her magnet, so the magnet can't actually clip on there properly, therefore causing a loose connection. And I have found this out as well with the Take and Play Shooting Star Gordon. Because of the way Gordon's front is, where the magnet is, it's got this skirt around it. So it is literally incompatible. It will not connect. See, I've slightly got it on there, but attach it to a Thomas Adventure. You see, it just comes off. It will not stay on. So I would think that this was meant to be for all engines. I mean, it just doesn't work. It will not connect. And the funny thing is, I read this packaging very thoroughly. Nowhere on this packaging does it say not compatible with all engines. So the consumer is left to believe that every Take and Play can use these. But I have just proved that these two here cannot take these adapters. I don't know what other models have this problem. I can imagine maybe Toby might, but these two here, completely incompatible. I just want to point out as well, it's actually a really satisfying feeling putting these magnets on. Oh yeah, it's a really nice click as well. These click into place via that mechanism on the magnet, and it's just a really nice feeling. It feels really good in the hand. So first off, here is Vinny from Take and Play, and if you have a look at the entirety of that model, look at the gap between the tender and the engine. That is just a joke. Like, I get it, most children won't be attaching the adapters between there and there, but I'm doing this because I want to prove to you guys that this is a very strong connection. But yes, that's what Vinny looks like. And I've also down here, as you just saw before, I've got James, and once again that's just a joke. It is just a joke. But it does allow me to do this. That is not disconnecting, and I'm giving that quite a bit of force. That is a great thing. That is amazing to have that strength there. Now there's actually something more to these adapters than most people think. As you know, kids will want to come and play and they want to mix their trains up. For example, what if they want to play with both their Adventures and their wooden railway? Yeah, well, they can't connect. Why? Because it's a different brand, isn't it? But what if? Look at that. The adapter is on there, and It's not coming off. Do the same on the back. That is a really snug fit. And just look at that. Look at that. How amazing is that? That is a great revelation for the Thomas & Friends toy franchise. This is a 1995 wooden Thomas, and it is able to connect with the newest Thomas & Friends item available. Still get a very strong connection at both ends. So, could Mattel possibly do this? Unfortunately not, because I also tried it with this Thomas here. And what I found out was the rim of the magnet is just a little bit too thick for the current wooden Thomas to have this adapter connected. That is such a shame. But for some reason the older Thomases can connect. Now I think that's just living proof that the older Thomas is the better Thomas. And it also means we can do something very special. Alright, I've got a nice little row of Thomases here, and you know what we can do now? We can do this. How about that? All these different types of Thomas toys are connected, and this is just unbelievably awesome. Mattel have done such the right thing. We've got a Trackmaster connected to an Adventures, connected to the classic Paperface Ertl, connected to a classic wooden railway, connected to a Mini. This is just the ultimate way for combined playing with your Thomas toys. Mr. Mattel, what a fantastic job you have done here. This was such the right thing to do, and I'm so happy that they have gone ahead and done something like this. Now if we take the Trackmaster off, look at this. Now the last thing I want to cover in this video is the packagings. When Take and Play first appeared, this is what we were presented with. It was a nice, tall packet with a clear window where you could see both sides of your model. Now I think many people liked this, and Take Along also had a very similar packaging to this. But when they did the changeover, it changed from this to this. Now when I first saw this packaging, I was instantly comparing it to the Bachmann packaging. It resembles that quite a lot. We've got a nice bubble around the engine, but you can only see the top side, front and back. You can't see the other side. You've got a nice picture of whatever character you had and their name. And on the earlier versions of the packaging, we also had the other characters you could get in this range. And the licensing info resided underneath the box. But this packaging got redesigned with the same Thomas from this to this. Side by side you can start to see the differences. On the back though is where the real differences are. We've gotten rid of other engines you can collect because who cares what other engines there are? And it just has this promotional picture here saying, explore the world of Thomas & Friends, collectible engines, endless adventures. Why they needed to redo this packaging, I don't know. Maybe it was just to keep the series up to date. But then they changed this again. Now, here we go. Exact same packaging. Yes. Two different Thomases. There was the Thomas with the smart magnets from 2012, and in the same packaging a year later came the 2013 Thomas with the dumb magnets. And once again, yes, they redesigned the packagings. And this is what we got. Now, this I didn't actually mind. It kind of reminded me of the Hot Wheels packet, which also is made by Mattel. We look on the back, same sort of situation, all this blah blah that no one really cares about. And the last version of the Take and Play packaging that I found was this one here. You can tell the differences straight away because this area down here is gone and each character had their own specific cardboard. So this was specific to Thomas because there is a picture of Thomas and there is Thomas's name there. On the back it still had all this stuff on it. And then we went to the Adventures, and the Adventures packaging is a very nice, appealing packaging. I haven't got a standard Thomas yet so I can do a direct comparison, but on the back of this one we have a synopsis, and I have had other Adventures engines, and none of them have this synopsis on the back, and it would have been really nice to see all the Adventures with the exact same backing of a synopsis on the back. Well, this video is getting pretty long now, guys, so I reckon this is where we conclude. That was my look at the Thomas & Friends diecast series through the years, starting right from the Ertl, going through the Take and Play, through the Mattel era of Take and Plays, and right up to the current Adventures. Just give you guys a quick look at some of these engines I have. And if you've made it this far through the video, I'm actually going to give you a quick tour of my review area. My review area is a table with a Hornby track layout mat over the top of it. And all around it I've just got a whole random assortment of toys, as well as my wall that goes all the way up here as a backdrop. I've got two lights here that aid with the video significantly, making it look nice and crisp and clear so that you guys can see what's happening. And basically it's quite simple. I sit at my chair, I have my homemade tripod, which is actually a casing for some thumbtacks. Here's what the case actually looks like. It's the same one I was holding my adapters in. And what I do is I've got this tape measure here just for weight, and a pop vinyl box which aids as my height, and I just sit the camera down there, and this is what you guys see in the videos. So yeah, video, yay! It's not even in focus, but oh well. So yes, that is my review area. Now, I think it's time to wrap this video up, guys. Please like and comment if you liked this video. And if you haven't already, subscribe if you enjoyed what you see. There will be more videos like this, I can guarantee you, because these adapters are really cool. So, as a final goodbye, this is Dieselworks123 signing off. And I will see you guys in the next video.